So we completed the introduction in one class, then we did the invocation in another class, and then we did the first mantra in another class. Then we did mantras 2 and 3. Then mantras 4 to 8. Yep, 4 to 8. Then 9 to 11, and 12 to 14, and now 15 to 18 we'll do tonight. So the theme for tonight is the prayers for revelation of the Lord's spiritual form. So there are prayers which are being there are prayers which are being offered by the Isopanisad itself. So that's an interesting point. Atuya was asking me earlier in the last hour, why is the book praying? And how can a book pray? Now, this is a fairly interesting question. We understand from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam that there were sadhana siddha gopis, gopis who were sadhakas, and they took the form of gopis in order to enter into Krishna's pastimes. So you had the Munichari gopis and the Shrutichari gopis. Munichari means sages from the Dandakaranya forest who were they were rishis, and they became attracted to Lord Ram. And Lord Ram had taken the Ekapatni Brat, only one wife. So then he said, come in the next incarnation and I will accept you. They were attracted to him in a conjugal mood in the form of their sages. Lord Ram and Lord Krishna are so attractive that even men feel conjugal feelings towards them. That's how powerful they are. The Shrutichari gopis were the personified Vedas, and they appeared as sadhakas to perfect themselves so that they, because each Veda has a personality. So each Upanishad, there's 108 Upanishads, each one has a personality. So these Shrutichari gopis, they manifest in their personal form, and they manifest as gopis in order to attempt to enter into the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan as gopis, as associates. So that's why, because Atoya was asking me earlier, so it's a pertinent question, why it's as if the Isopanisad itself is praying, because there's no person, we don't hear. Like in the Bhagavatam we hear, Parikshit, and were you asking this question as well?
We were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, you're asking today.
Yeah. We talk of different things, but along that line.
Yeah. So it's an interesting question because in the Bhagavatam there's speakers, Sutta Goswami and Shukadev Goswami, right? And then different personalities are speaking, but in the Upanishads, there's not always a speaker. The Upanishads are part of the Shruti. There's two divisions of the Vedas. There's the Smriti and the Shruti. Smriti means the portions that are remembered, the Puranic portions, like the Bhagavatam itself, the Puranas. They're coming from the memory of the sages. So they're called Smriti. Smriti means from the memory. And the Shruti is a portion of the Vedas, like the Upanishads, which are philosophical in nature, like the Bhagavad Gita, which emanates from the breathing of the Lord himself. So the Vedas and the Upanishads are philosophical, and they're emanating from the Lord himself. Shruti. Yeah, Shruti means hearing. Yeah, so Shruti. But it's heard from the Lord himself. So they emanate from at the beginning of creation. They emanate from the breathing of the Lord, of Vishnu. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Yeah, like that. And they emanate out of his. So this is why we're hearing prayers from the Isopanisad. That's an explanation that we can give. So we're hearing about these different prayers for revelation of this Lord's spiritual form. They want to see the form of the Lord, which just once again emphasizes the significance of the Lord's form. Right? We're a personalistic philosophy, Vaishnavism. The Vedas are actually personalistic, even though they can be construed from an impersonal point of view, but they're actually personalistic. And our tradition is personalistic. So now this is being heavily emphasized all through this Upanishad, but in these last 4 verses, especially. Next week, next Wednesday night, we'll do an overview. So I'll do an overview of the whole, Upanishad, the 18 verses plus the invocation, plus the introduction. And then not long after that, you'll have an exam. So you'll need to memorize the 2 key memory verses for the exam, which is the invocation and the first verse. Ishavasya and Om Purnam. So those 2 verses you'll need to memorize. And then I'll go through next week, I'll do an overview, and everything that I do in the overview will be in the exam. Whatever I speak, that's what the exam will be on, more or less. I'll cover the main points. There's so many things which are there. So that's where we're up to. So tonight we'll begin mantra 15. So mantra 15 says, Hiranmayena patrena satyasya pihitam mukam tatvam pushana pavrinu satya dhamaya drishchaye. Translation. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotees. So I found out last week for the first time that this version, which is a more recent version of Isopanisad, is edited. Prabhupada actually instructed Jayadvaita Swami and his disciples to edit his books because English wasn't Prabhupada's first language. I didn't realize, because some of you had been using the older version, I didn't realize that it had been edited quite heavily. So there's quite a difference. I didn't realize that till last week. So if that's why last week two of you were saying, well, what you're saying is not there. Yeah, because it had been edited. So I'm using this one. So those who are using that one, you can follow those or not. Then, yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah, hopefully you got the ones you're holding have got different covers, but hopefully they're modern. Yeah, that one is. That one is. So if you need the modern ones, we can get you the modern ones. They're in the shop. So Prabhupada says in the opening mantra, in the first paragraph, he quotes Bhagavad Gita 4:27. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, and which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal. So, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the resting place of the Brahman, right? Which we understand. I explained this, I think, already in previous weeks. You see behind me is a picture of Krishna and Radha together. So they're always depicted with effulgences, right? That effulgence is the Brahma Jyoti. No? That is Krishna's Shakti. Krishna's Shakti means energy, just like the sun has energy. So that what comes out of the sun, effulgence, light, heat. That effulgence is light, full of illumination, and heat, energy. Krishna is like the sun. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakar, it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna Surya Sama, he is like the Surya, the sun. Why? Because he glows. And I think did I explain in the previous week? When he goes to steal in the neighbors' houses and they have dark rooms. I think I explained this, that, they don't have refrigeration, they have dark rooms. Center of the house is like, if you go to Prabhupada's room at Radha Damodar temple, Did you go there? You didn't go. So if you go to Prabhupada's room at Radha Damana in Vrindavan, the walls are that thick, right? Stone, solid stone, like that thick, just slabs of stone, big blocks of stone. There's a reason why they do that, because Vrindavan gets 40 plus degrees. It goes up to nearly 50 degrees in summer. So when you have stone walls like that, it keeps the house cool. And then deep in the house, if you go in to the house, the rooms in the center, that's where they'd keep the foodstuffs, because they wouldn't go off because there wasn't refrigeration. So Krishna would go into those dark places, but because he's effulgent, everything lit up. So then he could take what he wants. And they would complain to Mother Yashoda. He comes, he steals. He walks in the house, he steals. And Mother Yashoda said, how can he? It's all dark in there. And I said, no, he glows. Your son glows. Right? He's like a effulgent personality. So what is that glow? It's his energies. It says there are 16 principal energies, which are mentioned. I don't have the list with me, but 16 principal energies. Jnana Shakti, Ijja Shakti, Kriya Shakti. These are 3 of the energies of the 16 principle. Thinking, feeling, willing. All of us, our mind, that's a function of the mind. The mind thinks, feels, wills. Those 3 things. Yeah, that's another one. Vaidini means bliss potency. Thinking, feel, but jnana, Krishna also thinks. Jnana, knowledge, right? He thinks about different things. So he is thinking, feeling, ijja. Ijja means will, right? He has will, or he thinks, or he feels things. Oh, let it happen. I desire it. When we feel something, we desire it. Oh, let it happen. So that's ijja. And then kriya. Kriya means willing. Now I'll make it happen, right? I think about it, then I feel it, and now I will it. I make it happen. So thinking, feeling, and then willing. So Krishna also, jnana, ijja, kriya. Kriya means willing it to happen or forcing it to happen. Kriya actually means force. So it means, yeah, bhajana kriya. Yeah, force. So Krishna forces things to happen, or he wills it to happen, and now it's going to happen. Thinking, feeling, willing. So these are part of his energy. So when we see that effulgence of God, like we see in the picture, he has the effulgence. That effulgence, that's all the different energies coming out of him, right? And as is being explained, he is the source of the energies. Brahmano hi pratishtaham, Krishna says, I am the support of the Brahman effulgence. In other words, it is coming from me, not the opposite. Not that from the effulgence comes the personality or the form of God. That's the difference in our philosophy. Many philosophies, they think that God is light, he is energy, and the form manifests from the light or energy. Whereas we think the opposite. We think God is a personality and from him comes the energy. So it's a different way of looking at it. So ours, we consider ours to be the most complete way of looking at the truth. Whereas others think that's the more complete way of looking at the truth. So it's okay. Whatever you want to, however you want to look. But our food is definitely better. So, so we will take this philosophy. And the people are nice. Not the people are nice in the other place as well. But anyway, we've chosen what we've chosen. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada says, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are 3 aspects of the same absolute truth. Bhagavan realization is the ultimate realization. In the Shruti mantra of Isopanisad, the Lord is addressed as Pushan, the ultimate maintainer. So, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdyate, it says in Bhagavatam. Prabhupada actually says in the introduction of the Bhagavatam is, it describes the absolute truth. It doesn't talk about God, because God is singular. God just means just God, just Krishna. But Bhagavatam speaks about the absolute truth. It's not just God, but it's God and all of his energies, all of his creation. Right? That's why there's 5 subject matters in Gita. Right? Karma, Kala, Prakriti, Jiva, and Ishvara. Right? It's not just Ishvara. Bhagavad Gita doesn't speak just about God. Right? It speaks about all the different features of his creation. That's the absolute truth. So Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabjite. That's the proper way of seeing God. He is the effulgence. The effulgence is him, but he's different from it. Right? It's his effulgence, so therefore it's part of him, but he's different from it. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for us, it's easy to understand, but others, they get confused on these points. Right? It is him because it comes from him, but it's different from him because it is. The sunshine is different from the sun, but it is the sun. There's no sun without sunshine, but there's no sunshine is not the sun. Right? So that makes sense. Right? It's logical, even though some people will say, oh, that's a little obscure, but actually it just makes sense. So Brahman and then Paramatma. Paramatma. Atma means soul, spirit. Para means supreme. Why is he the supreme soul? Because he's everywhere all at once. Savagya. We're not everywhere all at once. Right? We don't even know where we are most of the time.
Or what we did.
Or what we did.
Or what we're going to do.
Or what we're going to do. Some people don't even know where they are. Right? You know, I wake up in the morning sometimes, it's dark. Sometimes I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am. Like I wake up and I think, oh, am I in Vrindavan? Yeah. Yeah, my project in Puri. You know, and then I think, oh, I'm at Hare Krishna Valley. I'm in Melbourne. You know, like my mind is going different. You know? So where am I? Now, that's ignorance. But Krishna is never like that. Savagya means always knows where he is. Right? He knows everything simultaneously because he's everywhere all at once. Right? He's in every atom. So he's everywhere simultaneously. And he knows everything past, present, and future. Trikalagya. He knows everything that happened in the past, everything that will happen in the future, and everything that's happening right now. Right? So that is all powerful. That is Param Atma, supreme spirit. We are just Atma. We are not supreme spirit. We are Anu. Anu means small, follower. It also means follower. And Krishna is Vibhu. Vibhu means unlimited. Vaibhav. Vaibhav means full of power, unlimited energy and power. That's Krishna. That's God. We're just, Anu, very small, insignificant.
Asesha Shakti.
Asesha Shakti, yeah. Asesha means unlimited, Shakti, potency. The name of Lord Balaram, Asesha. Asesha means unlimited, Shakti, potency. So, third paragraph, Prabhupada says, Sri Krishna is always in transcendental bliss, Anandamayo Vyasat. Everything that was performed by the Lord at Vrindavan was performed for the pleasure of his associates there. The Lord created these pastimes to attract the jnanis and the yogis who had come to find the absolute truth. So all the pastimes that he performs in Vrindavan, he performs when he comes to the material world. Right? When he comes into this material world, he brings Vrindavan with him. Why? So that he can attract the conditioned souls back to him. Because we've forgotten Krishna. We forgot God. So then he comes to Vrindavan, he comes to India, and he lives there. And he shows us his pastimes to attract us to the ultimate reality, to the spiritual reality, which is beyond this world. The reality that he shows us has nothing to do with this world. We all get caught up in the lila of this material world, the lila of this material energy. But this is not reality. It's just a dream, swapna. Swapna means just a dream. We're all dreaming, but we all identify with the dream. And then we think, oh, I am enjoying or I am suffering. Whereas in the spiritual, that's reality. Well, the pastimes that Krishna displays in Vrindavan that he shows us when he comes here, that's reality. So Krishna is trying to show us these pastimes. That's why he comes to this world, to show us what is real. Prabhupada says in the next paragraph that the Lord is always engaged in transcendental loving activities with his spiritual associates in Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya Ras. So all the different rasas. Krishna shows them because that's what takes place in the spiritual world. So he shows us pure spiritual relationships when he comes here to attract us away from the relationships in this material world. Because we're very attached to this material world. And Krishna wants to break the attachment. That's why he performs his pastimes here, to break the attachment that we have in this material world. Then Prabhupada says in the next paragraph that since the Lord never leaves Vrindavan, how does he manage the creation? Although the Lord personally has nothing to do with the creation, maintenance and destruction, he causes all these things to be done by Paramatma. Ishvara, Parama, Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadya, Adya, Govinda, Savakarana, Karanam. Lord Brahma says. Savakarana Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. Savakarana. All the causes. Everything which is caused in this world. Right? Parents cause children. But then if you go back generationally, then originally it will all start with Krishna. Right? Everything starts with Krishna in this material world. So this is the nature of Krishna. But Prabhupada says, although he never leaves Vrindavan, and this is how he manages the creation. Right? He does it through his expansions. He himself doesn't get involved in the creation. He's not interested in this material world, actually. This material world, some devotees explain it, it's like the latrine. Only a crazy person spends time in the toilet. No, you don't spend your day in the toilet. You go there, you do your business, and you get out. You don't spend the day in the toilet. You don't take your computer in and, start doing all your work there and like that. That's what the material world is like. For Krishna, it's like a toilet, somewhere that you would not stay. You just come here, you do your business, you get out.
Go Kishore Das
It's
Babaji.
not.
Toilets.
What's that?
Go Kishore Das Babaji.
Yeah, Gorgashodas Babaji Maharaj would hide in a abandoned latrine, just so people would not annoy him. Yeah. So, what's that?
Slightly.
Yeah, transcendental. Yeah. So, Krishna sees this place as being a place that you will just come temporarily. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, it is no fit place for a gentleman. Gentlemen don't spend time in toilets. They just do their business, they get out. Only crazy people spend times there. So, Prabhupada, his guru says that this world is like that. You just come here, you do your business, you go back to the spiritual world. What's the point of staying here in this world? There's no real pleasure here. As Prabhupada explained, the only people having a little bit of pleasure are those who are crazy and those who are self-realized. But everyone else, there's no real pleasure. Then Prabhupada says, the system of God realization is a great science. If one wants to see the absolute truth in full, he has to penetrate beyond the 24 material elements and the glaring effulgence as well. Sri Isopanisad prays for the removal of the dazzling covering. So this verse is saying, remove the dazzling covering. of impersonalism, jnana, and my attachment to the 26 elements or 24 elements. Sometimes it's spoken of differently, which is karma. Karma, activity. So bhakti cannot be pure if it's obscured by jnana or karma. Krishna speaks of these three subject matters in the Gita: karma, bhakti, and jnana. Right? So karma and jnana, they obscure our bhakti. So therefore, one cannot practice pure bhakti if there is too much karma or too much jnana, too much knowledge, impersonal knowledge, the wrong type of knowledge. And karma means material desires. If you have too many material desires, you can't understand Krishna, God, and you can't understand your spiritual nature. Material desires cover that. So the process of Krishna consciousness is to get rid of those material desires so that we can see Krishna properly. And the final paragraph in this mantra, Prabhupada says, this system, or actually it's not the final paragraph, but it's my summary of this particular mantra. This system of God realization is a great science. If one wants to see the absolute truth in full, he has to penetrate beyond the 24 elements, which is what we just read. Sri Isopanisad prays for the removal of the dazzling covering. In the absence of spiritually potent manifestations of the supreme truth, Brahman or Paramatma is realized. So does anyone have any points on this first verse?
Interesting that it's praying for the removal of the effulgence, like you were sort of talking about there. So already understanding that there's something beyond, there's already something beyond that. So asking for that inferior energy to be removed. It's not really interesting. Yeah, because some people, that's what they're aspiring for.
Yeah. So get rid of the distractions. Pray to Krishna to remove our distractions. Those are the things that distract us from Krishna consciousness. We pray like that, then Krishna will help us. Get rid of those things. Any other points?
I like how it ends the mantra, like the purport, where it's saying about the, a philosopher is better than a laboring man. And then, the mystic is spiritual philosopher. All mystic yogis, people just bhakti yoga, constantly engaging with service for the Lord is the highest. That kind of breaks down all the different levels that people are existing in.
Yeah, that's also in the beginning of the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, this similar kind of a breakdown. Just kidding. Anything else? Okay, mantra 16. Pushanne kashe yamasurya prajapatya vyuharashmin sammuha tejoyate rupam kalyana tamam tate pashyami yo suvaso purusha soham asmi soham. Myself, aham, I am. Sometimes I've been to yoga classes, but they chant that. Soham asmi. Well, they don't really understand what it means. They're kind of saying, I am myself, or I am supreme. That's what a lot of people say that. I am supreme. Soham asmi. I am that. I am supreme. But that's not what the Upanishad is saying. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination, of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun, as am I. So that's the correct understanding. The correct understanding is to say, I am the same as Krishna in quality. Qualitatively, we are the same, but quantitatively, we are not the same. Right? Where God is spiritual, we are spiritual, but we are not supreme. God is supreme. We are not supreme. We try to imitate God in this world. We act like we are the supreme. Ishvara and Bogi. I am the enjoyer. I am the controller. I control things so I can enjoy. That's material consciousness. Spiritual consciousness is I try to control things so Krishna can enjoy. Krishna is the enjoyer. We are not the enjoyer. We are the secondary enjoyer. We enjoy prasad, what Krishna leaves us. That's what we enjoy. But if we think that we can enjoy separate from Krishna, then we will suffer. That is called maya, that which is not. So in the first paragraph of 16, Prabhupada says, the Lord and the living entities are one in quality. The Lord is one, but the living entities are innumerable. The living entities constitute part of the whole, and the Lord and the living entity constitute the complete whole. Within Goloka Vrindavan, from which the Brahma Jyoti is emanating, resides the Lord. So Prabhupada is just putting everything into perspective. The Isopanisad is putting everything into perspective. We have to know our position. Prabhupada mentions in Upanishads, we are meant to cooperate with Krishna, cooperate with God. That's all he wants. He just wants us to cooperate. Prabhupada said he doesn't want to control us. If he wanted to control us, he could. He could take away our independence and just force us all to do whatever he wants, but he doesn't do that. He gives us all independence. Go and do what you want to do. If you want to do it, go and do it. He gives you the material world, right? Like if we want to let our kids do something, then we say, okay, go off and do this here or there. You know, we don't give them a universe. You know, but Krishna gives us a whole universe. Go off and enjoy yourselves. Get this out of your system. Gives us like an entire universe to enjoy ourselves. So that is Krishna's mercy or his kindness to the living entities. So Prabhupada says he just wants us to cooperate. Paragraph 2, Prabhupada says, unless one surpasses the Brahma Jyoti, he cannot receive information of the land of the Lord. Being blinded by the Brahma Jyoti, the Jnani can neither realize the factual abode of the Lord nor his form. So in the Nectar of Devotion, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's a nice prayer offered by Hanuman. You know Hanuman? He's famous Hanuman. He's the supreme servant of Ramachandra. So he fought very vigorously in the Battle of Lanka. Right? Big fight. It was a big fight, and he fought very well. He's a powerful warrior. You know, he was throwing mountaintops, and you know, he did a lot of damage to the opposing armies. Very powerful. He jumped all the way from India to Sri Lanka. Right, it's a big jump. He just like leapt across, and he set fire to the place, and then came back and said, "I found Sita." And then they all built the bridge, which you can see on satellite image, Google Images. The bridge is there. So Hanuman, at the end of the battle, he came back to Ayodhya with Lord Ram. What day did they arrive back in Ayodhya?
Diwali.
Diwali.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Diwali. Yeah. They arrived back on Diwali, Amavasya, dark moon in Kartik. So the Kartik Mas will start soon. When was the full moon? Friday. Okay. So 3.5 weeks, Kartik begins. So everyone should start thinking about their Kartik vrats. Take some vows for Kartik to please Krishna. So we should start thinking. Kartik is very powerful. Way to please Krishna. So much mercy is available during that holy month. So on the dark moon, which is halfway through Kartik, that's called Diwali. That is when Lord Ram entered back into Ayodhya. He flew on a swan carrier from Sri Lanka to Ayodhya. And as he came in, because it was dark moon, it was dark, they lit up all the lamps. That's why it's called Diwali, the Deepa. Yeah, so everything was lit up very nicely. That's why we celebrate it. It's a very beautiful festival. You know, Mayapur, we're usually there in Kartik. It's so beautiful. It's exquisite. Hanuman, when he got back, Lord Ram said to him, "What benediction do you want? I'll give you a blessing because you fought so well in the battle to bring Sita back to me." So there's a very nice verse in the Nectar of Devotion where Hanuman says, if Lord Ram said to him, "What do you want? What benediction do you want? Do you want liberation, moksha?" And Hanuman says, if liberation means I lose my eternal relationship with you or the opportunity to serve you, for me, that is like hell. If I lose the ability to serve your form, for me, that is like hell. So this shows for the devotees, this is a verse that shows what's being said here in the Isopanisad. We don't want to lose our opportunity to serve Krishna, his form. That's why the idea of merging into Krishna is so unappealing to devotees. Sometimes impersonalists can't understand why we're so against this idea, this concept, why it's so important for us. Because we don't want to merge, we don't want to lose the opportunity to serve Krishna. We don't want to become one with Krishna. For us, that is unpalatable. And Hanuman said, if liberation means I have to merge into you, I don't want liberation. I just want to serve you birth after birth. Na danam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam va jagadishe kamaye, mama jamini, jamanishwari, jamini, birth after birth, Lord Chaitanya says. I just want to be your servant, birth after birth. I don't mind being born again, as long as I can serve Krishna. As long as I get the opportunity to serve Krishna again, then I don't mind being born again. For a devotee, it's not such a big thing. No, we prefer to go back to the spiritual world, but if we're born again, that's okay. As long as we get to do service to Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I want the benediction that if I'm born again, even if I become an insect in the house of a devotee, at least I'm in the house of a devotee. I get to hear the devotee chanting and I get the remnants of the prasadam, the crumbs and like that. So even if I'm an insect, I'd rather be that than merge into the impersonal effulgence of Krishna. So paragraph 4, Prabhupada says, the complete conception of the absolute truth is realized in Bhagavan because he is almighty and possesses full transcendental potencies. The full potency of the absolute truth is not realized in the Brahma Jyoti. Therefore, Brahman realization is only partial realization of Bhagavan. So when you realize God has three spiritual features, Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means eternality. Chit means knowledge or consciousness. Ananda means bliss. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Vigraha. Krishna's form is made of those three. Now, when you realize Brahman, the effulgence of Krishna, the impersonal form, you only realize Sat, or eternality. You get a realization of spirit is eternal. When you realize Paramatma, God in every atom, then you realize Sat Chit. You realize eternality and knowledge. You have what is it, cognitive? How do you spell the word?
Cognitive.
Cognitive awareness,
Yeah.
the cognizance. Yeah, that's the other word. Cognizance. You're cognizant of God being in everything. So you have you understand eternality and knowledge. But then beyond that is when you serve Krishna. That's what the devotee realizes. And then you realize Sat, Chit, and Ananda when you concentrate on Bhagavan. Brahman will only give you realization of eternity, Sat. Paramatma only Sat, Chit. But Bhagavan, Krishna in his original form, you realize Sat, Chit, Ananda. Eternality, knowledge, and bliss. So this is what is being described in this part of the Isopanisad. So the main point which I took away for mantra 16 of the Isopanisad is, since the Lord is the origin of Paramatma and Brahman, he is the origin of all jivas and all else that exists. One who knows this engages himself at once in devotional service. Such a pure and fully cognizant devotee is fully attached to the Lord in heart and soul. And whenever such a devotee assembles with similar devotees, they have no engagement but the glorification of the Lord's transcendental activities. When devotees come together, they just want to glorify Krishna. Guru, Hari Guru, Vaishnava, Bhagavata, Gita. Narottam Das Thakur says, devotees are interested in glorifying Hari, Guru, Vaishnava, Bhagavata, Gita. No, that's what devotees like to talk about. They don't want to talk about mundane politics. Or fluffy dogs named Spotty. Or different things.
Cute cats.
Cute cats. Or whatever it is. Devotees, what do they primarily? Well, we speak about different things, but primarily we like to speak about Krishna. Hari, Guru, Vaishnava, Bhagavata, Gita. That's what devotees like speaking about. Why? Because it brings cognizance of Krishna. It brings Krishna consciousness, which is the goal of life. Always remember Krishna. Never forget Krishna. What's the best way? Because, I was speaking with Atulya just before, there are 9 processes of bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasham, Sakyam, Atman Nivedanam. The first 3 are the most important. Shravanam, hearing, Kirtanam, chanting, glorifying, which leads to Vishnu Smaranam, remembering Krishna, which is the goal. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So all the items of bhakti, they help us to remember Krishna, which is the goal of life. So any points? Okay. So, so this next verse, verse 17 it's a wonderful verse. Let this, Vayur anila mamritam atedam basmantam shariram kratosmara kritam smara kratosmara kritam smara. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices. And because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. So, this is a very nice mantra, and it's also a very nice purport. Because it gives us great hope, because Prabhupada answers that even if you can't remember Krishna at the time of death, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, yam yam vapi smaram bhavam, whatever you think of at the time of death, that state you will attain without fail. So whatever you're meditating on at the time of death, that's what you will attain. So this verse, Prabhupada teaches us that even if you can't remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna will not forget you. Dave Marita Swami gave a nice class many years ago in Melbourne, and I remember Maharaj making that point. It struck me that if you spend your whole life serving someone, decades and decades and decades, we make mistakes and we fall down and we do all sorts of, things which may not be Krishna conscious, but if we stick to the path, Ananya Bhak means we don't deviate from the path. And if we do that and spend many, many years serving Krishna and then gradually remembering Krishna and focusing on Krishna, even if we can't remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna will not forget us. Right? And he may take us back to the spiritual world. Right? Srila Prabhupada says, if you become 70% pure, Prabhupada says, if you chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles, he'll take you back to Godhead in this lifetime. Right? So that's the standard we have to come to. If we can do that, you can go back to the spiritual world, live with Krishna eternally, in full knowledge and bliss. So there's a very nice verse, very nice purport. Prabhupada says in the first paragraph, the temporary material body is certainly a foreign dress. After the destruction of the material body, the living entity is not annihilated, nor does he lose his identity. The living entity is never formless. On the contrary, the material dress is formless and takes shape according to the form of the soul. So it's interesting because we identify with the body, but the body is just a temporary covering. It's like something you make out of clay. You make something out of clay, like a form. But then you can re-sculpt that clay to look differently. So we've had different bodies, just like different kind of covering the soul, but it's not actually us. We are the soul. We don't change. The body changes, the outer covering changes, but we do not change. In the third paragraph, Prabhupada says, the material bodies are foreign to the living entities. They change according to the living entity's desire for sense gratification. The highest developed form is the human form when it is possessed of a full sense of spiritual knowledge. The highest development of one's spiritual sense is described in this mantra. One should give up this material body. He may then enter into the spiritual atmosphere where he can develop a spiritual body. So it mentions in the Shastra that if one serves Krishna in this lifetime and becomes qualified, one will take birth in the material world, in the particular planet or universe where Krishna is performing his pastimes, and he gets trained up so that he can then enter into the spiritual world and live eternally. So if we give up our attachment to this material world, then we can enter into that place where Krishna is currently and be trained by his associates, and then we can then enter into the spiritual world. Although Jananivas Prabhu told me a few years ago, he said that he told me that Prabhupada said for the pujaris, they can go directly to Goloka Vrindavan because they're just already absorbed in service to Krishna, like Bhakti Mahaprabhu. Then he can go directly to Goloka Vrindavan because he's already doing all the services. All the training is there. In paragraph 6, Prabhupada says, in this mantra, the living entity prays to enter Goloka Vrindavan after relinquishing his material body and air. The devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and sacrifices. This prayer is made at the time of death, with full consciousness of one's past deeds and of the ultimate goal. So the devotee prays, Krishna, please remember everything I've done. Even if I can't remember you at the time of death, but please don't forget everything that I have done. And then if you want, take me back to you. That's how a devotee prays. So we just do our service nicely. Prabhupada said, don't try to be a great devotee, just be a good devotee. That's enough. As you get older, you think like that. You give up your ideas of being great because you realize it's not working. It's not working. So just be good. If you can't be great, just be good. Be a good devotee. And then Krishna will take you back to the spiritual world. And then in summary, there's quite a long, quite a long purport. We're just going over the basics or the essential points because the idea of these courses is that you read the verses and study it in your own time. And the classes we overview. We can't go through every point. There's way too many points Prabhupada makes. But in summary, my summary of this mantra is, unlike the animals, the human can remember the activities of his passing life. Therefore, his mind remains surcharged with material desires, and consequently, he cannot enter the spiritual kingdom with a spiritual body. However, the devotees develop a sense of love of God by practicing devotional service. Even if a devotee does not remember his godly service at the time of death, the Lord does not forget him. So Prabhupada makes that reassurance. Any points? So we have one more mantra. This is the final mantra of the Isopanisad, the concluding prayer of the devotee who desires to achieve Krishna's mercy. Agnenaya supataraye asman vidvaneva vayunani vidwan yuyod yasmaj juhuranam eno Bhuyishtam te nama uktim videma. Translation. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, or omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances. Falling on the ground at your feet, O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins, so that there will be no more hindrance to my progress. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful verse. Prabhupada says in the first paragraph, by surrendering and praying for the causeless mercy of the Lord, the devotee can progress on the path of complete self-realization. The Lord is addressed as fire because he can burn anything into ashes, including the sins of the surrendered soul. So, if we surrender to Krishna, as Krishna says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Savadamam Parijaja, Mamekam Sharanam Braja, Aham Tvam Sava Papebhyo. Sava Papebhyo means unlimited sins, all your sins. Moksha Yashami Masuchaha. If you surrender to me, I will burn up all the reactions to your sins. Do not fear. So Krishna says that, do not fear. I will burn up all the reactions to your sins. I will take you back to the spiritual world. So if we just surrender to Krishna in this lifetime, Krishna will take care of all your sins. And he will destroy all of the material attachments and desires that we have. in this material world. So my summary of this mantra is that the Guru, the Vedic injunctions, and the Paramatma guide the devotee in full strength. By hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one becomes cleansed of all undesirable things, and his devotion becomes fixed. At this stage, the devotee acquires the Brahminical qualifications, and the resultant reactions of passion and ignorance completely vanish. The devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of his devotional service, and thus he comes to know the path of the Lord and the way to attain him. As all doubts diminish, one becomes a pure devotee. So, the Guru, the Vedic injunctions, and the Paramatma guide the devotee. Right? Paramatma guides us, but we can't rely only on Paramatma because we're not pure enough. So therefore, Guru, well, actually in our tradition, it is plural, Guruns. We have different types of Gurus, Diksha Guru, Shiksha Gurus. Right? That's our tradition. So we're guided by those. We have to take shelter of devotees, Diksha Guru and Shiksha Gurus. They will guide us. And as Prabhupada says, the Vedic injunctions. So you have to read Prabhupada's books, right, regularly. If you read Prabhupada's books, you're getting guidance. Prabhupada will guide you how to go back to Godhead. So if we do all of these things, our heart will become cleansed, and the effects of the modes of nature will go away, and then we can fully surrender to Krishna and become a pure devotee of Krishna. So any points? Any questions or comments? Yep.
I liked in mantra 17, and the Prabhupada explains that, there are two purposes, or activity purposes, I think is the word he uses, or that we as, the jivas have, and one is to maintain our material bodies, and the second, which runs parallel, is self-realization. And I like how he describes that they have to, we have to maintain the material body. It's something we can't not do it. So it's a duty we have to do, we're obligated to do, we need to do. So these two have to run parallel. And I like how it was quite a practical also, in saying that, the less we do, in maintaining the body, if we then increase that, shift that over to the self-realization line, then we will develop. But if we don't reach a certain point on the self-realization line in that parallel, then we can become have moments of being overwhelmed by worldliness. And I liked that. I thought that was quite a practical explanation of where we can find ourselves, or where we see even potentially like great devotees in our tradition as well. Like if that balance, that two parallel lines, if that self-realization point doesn't get hit, then you might bounce out, but then Krishna can bring people back quite quickly. But depending on what the situation is, I liked it. I thought it was very practical.
Yeah, nice point. Nice point. Nibbanda Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Uchate. The material body and everything in the material world is meant to be used in Krishna's service. And by using in Krishna's service, and as you say, looking after it, Prabhupada used to finish every letter, I hope this meets you in good health. And he said to Dhananjaya Prabhu, health first, then Krishna consciousness. So we have to look after our material body. Yeah, parallel tracks. Any other points?
It's important.
Yeah, look after your material body so that you can serve Krishna.
Just think how doubts hinder your devotional level, you might say, your devotional outlook. I found that very poignant to note for me. You become a pure devotee, become free of all doubts, and then you can act on that pure devotional platform. So you can see how it's not cheap. It's not a belief system. It's not some, just by austerity. No, you actually have to become first educated, but then you have to act on that platform, become self-realized. So it's, for me, that was very poignant.
Yeah, powerful.
I've read it so many times, but the way you put it and hearing it in same context.
Came up in the class. It came up in the class.
Yeah, it's just very poignant.
Yeah, powerful. Sure. Any other points? Okay, Srila Prabhupada Ki. So your homework is to read the whole book. And then next week we'll do a revision of the whole book, and then we'll have an exam after that. Okay, thank you all for coming.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Hari Bol.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Babu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
It'll be probably about, you have to write down the 2 verses.
Yeah.
And then be probably 12 to 14 questions or something.
How strict will you be on spelling of the Sanskrit verses?
Well, you'll lose marks if it's not spelled properly.
What if you forget the accents?
Forget you mean the,
Yeah,
then you might lose a little bit of a mark if the, you don't like the Sanskrit. But if you get the spelling correct without then, the more perfect it is, obviously, the higher mark you will get. Me.
just because
The teacher.
sometimes with the S's, sometimes I don't know whether it's at the top or the bottom.
Yeah, so do your best. It's only 2 verses, so do your best. Yeah, if you can get it. I mean, if you get it exact, obviously get a perfect mark. If it's not quite, then you lose a little bit. That's okay. So get it as close as you can.
Hare Krishna.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All the best.
Thank you.
See you on Sunday.
Yes, yes, Sunday.
Haribol.